Welcome to the BrightWord Books podcast. BrightWord is a leading platform for diverse storytelling, where voices from all backgrounds can share their unique narratives and connect with readers from around the world. Follow our regular podcast updates, where we strive to foster a literary community that celebrates creativity, inclusivity, and the transformative power of literature. Welcome to the BrightWord Books podcast. I'm your host, John Lobb, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Daniel Donoghue, author of A Fortunate Son and Other Stories, a collection of stories written across decades of Daniel's life, chronicling his journey from youth to the present day. These slice-of-life narratives capture both the deeply personal and the universally human. Love and loss, desire and regret, the weight of family, the scars of military life, and quiet battles with mental illness. With unflinching honesty and lyrical prose, Donoghue explores the raw edges of experience, where tenderness and turmoil coexist. Daniel, welcome to the podcast. It's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you, John. I'm happy to join.
Wonderful. Daniel, many of the stories in your book are set in specific time periods. How do you go about researching or recalling historical context for your narratives?
Well, John, it's primarily through Google and occasionally going to the library to search for certain books at certain time periods. And I also do a lot of research in news articles, news and newspapers and magazines.
Gotcha. Are there any authors or specific books that have profoundly influenced your writing?
Yes, when I was a teenager, um, I read quite a bit of fiction, but the most impactful to me were Ernest Hemingway and John Steinbeck. Particularly their books for Hemingway, For Whom the Bell Tolls, and Steinbeck, The Grapes of Wrath. I was a teenager, and those stories, those novels were so powerful and so well written that they really had an effect on me.
That's terrific. And I know that's the experience for a lot of readers. When you were reading as a teen, did you feel after putting the books down, you said to yourself, I'm going to be a writer? Is that when you knew that you'd be a writer?
Well, I didn't know it, but I wanted to. Yes, after reading those books and some others during that time frame, I wanted to have the ability to have an effect on people the same way those novels did for me.
Wonderful. And I have no doubt that you will do so. Humor often appears subtly in the stories. How do you decide when to inject humor into what otherwise might be a serious or emotional narrative?
Well, I use humor primarily when I feel it's needed to make a point in a lightheaded manner to move the story forward.
Got it. But I imagine you have to be careful not to make too much light of the subject if it's a serious subject.
Oh, of course. Yeah. You only use humor when it's appropriate. There are many sections of my work where, humor would be completely inappropriate.
Gotcha. How do you approach character development? Do you have a specific character in mind, or does the character kind of come to life as you write?
It's both. I usually get the character, particularly the lead character, um, from something I knew, whether it was a picture or an article describing what a person looked like. I use that, and it's a challenge, but I do have something in mind when I'm writing the story. Someone in mind when I'm writing the story.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Do you have a particular audience in mind, or does that kind of come into fruition as you write as well?
I don't have a particular audience in mind when I sit down to write a story. I focus on the story itself and what I'm trying to say, and how I want it to read, but I don't write for a specific audience.
Do you have a daily or even seasonal writing routine that helps you stay disciplined when you're in writing mode?
I really don't, other than writing in the morning, because I always write in the morning. I don't have a specific routine. Frequently, I work well when I have a deadline, when there's a date I need to meet.
Gotcha. Do you ever suffer writer's block or moments when you feel like a story is just stuck, it won't go any further?
Oh, yes, I'm sure that's something every writer deals with. Um, what I tend to do is I sit in front of the computer, sit in front of the story, read the last couple of paragraphs I wrote, and then focus my mind on the next steps I'm trying to relate in the story.
Are there any stories that you almost left out of the book but did make the cut? And, are you glad that they made the cut?
Yeah, well, there were a few stories I debated about, and there's a number of others that I did decide to leave out. The Thin Ice of the New Day and Sidewalk Sale were two stories I was on the fence about, but I left them in because they dealt with important subjects to me. One dealt with technology and one dealt with race.
And conversely, were there any stories that you would never leave out? Like, do you have a one story is there a favorite in the book?
Oh, yeah, That's a Fortunate Son, the title story.
And can you share with the audience a little bit about that story?
Sure. I'd read an article about an ex-Marine who was um, in a wheelchair by the shores. I believe it was in Seattle, by the beach. And, he was attacked, violently attacked and stabbed. And, he had his Purple Heart on his wheelchair. I was just devastated by the story of what happened to this man. And I decided to see if I could write a history around his life. And as I wrote the story, it really became clear to me that faith in God must have had an important role in his life. So I wrote the story to capture that in his youth and see how it stayed with him for his whole life, even in the darkest moments.
Interesting. And so it's something that you saw became, this tale of exploring this guy's religious development possibly, or spiritual development, and how he got from where he started to where he was that day.
Right. I thought spiritual development must have had something to do with his living, trying to live life as best he could.
Absolutely. Daniel, I understand that you edit your own work. Is it tough being your own editor, especially with some of the more emotionally raw stories?
Oh yes, it's very difficult to edit yourself. And I'm not sure I do a great job at it. But sometimes my wife has reviewed my work and given me suggestions that help me out.
Excellent. Has she ever shifted your perspective on something you've written, or maybe made a point that you had not considered, that something struck her that you hadn't even thought of yet?
Yeah, actually, with A Fortunate Son, she came to me with some advice about the ending, how to end the story, and I took it, because it was important advice.
Absolutely. Many of your stories, Daniel, explore moral dilemmas or life's ambiguities. Do you see your work as exploring philosophical questions, or are the stories more a reflection of lived experience?
Well, mostly it's through lived experiences. Um, when I, create characters or stories, I really don't focus on the philosophical ramifications of them. It's based on things I've experienced or things I've read in my life.
Gotcha. What role does memory play in your storytelling? Are there things that come to your mind, or like you saw the man in the wheelchair? Is it things that strike you in the present, or things that come back to you from years past?
It's both. It's both. I think memory is more important to me than nostalgia or anything like that. Um, I use what I see and hear and read, uh, and I try to transfer that to the page.
Excellent. If one of your stories could directly impact someone's life, and let's say a reader just had time to read just one of your stories, would Fortunate Son be the one that you'd want them to read?
Yes, yeah, Fortunate Son, because to me it has an important message. I hope that it imparts how faith in God can affect our lives in a positive way.
And considering your writing career as a whole, Daniel, what moments stand out as particularly pivotal for you?
Well, I think it was when I stayed at home after my daughter was born. I was a stay-at-home dad for 2 years, and I wrote my novel, completed the novel, a couple of short stories. All I taking care of her while I was sitting in my office doing the writing. And taking care of her was the impetus to make my writing mean something.
Excellent. So that's an example of a life event leading to part of the drivers of your writing.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
And Daniel, as someone who tells stories of life's complexities, what do you hope your own stories ultimately leave behind for the world? In other words, what do you hope anyone who reads your book will take away from it in general?
Well, as you mentioned in the beginning, first off, I hope it's a snapshot. These stories collectively give a snapshot as to what it means to live during these times, these times that we live in now.
Absolutely. Well, I think if the reviews are any indication, your stories are touching people, and I think you should be feeling proud of everything that the book is doing for sure. Do you plan a follow up, or will you continue writing, Daniel?
Well, I have a novel coming out in the spring called Gold in the Furnace. And I have a screenplay based on that novel, and I've written a theatrical play as well.
Wow, very productive. And you said it was Gold in a Furnace?
Gold in the Furnace should be coming out in the spring.
Excellent. And can you give us a little sneak peek into what that story is about?
Sure, it's about a forbidden love affair between an American diplomat and a Serbian woman in Yugoslavia, leading up to the Yugoslav Civil War in 1991. And the romance is kind of illicit because American diplomats could not socialize with Yugoslavs because they were still labeled a communist country. So I let the affair grow, against the backdrop of what's a beautiful country, and then events lead up to the Civil War itself, how the Civil War affects these two people, and you know how they make it through the war and their love affair grows.
Wow, sounds intriguing. We'll be looking forward to the arrival of that book as well.
Oh, thank you.
Well, our time is running down, Daniel. But before I let you go, any single message that you'd like to share with readers or those considering purchasing the book?
Sure. Well, I hope the book, or these stories, provide some kind of input or insight into not only my life but their life. And it comes the ability to write comes from God for me. And So I hope that people, get something like that out of it.
Terrific. Daniel, thank you so much for being with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you so much, John. I really enjoyed it.
Me too. Me too. We've been speaking with Daniel Donoghue, author of A Fortunate Son and Other Stories, now available on Amazon. And we thank you for joining us today, and we'll look forward to visiting with you again on the next episode of the BrightWord Books Podcast. You've been listening to the BrightWord Books Podcast, home of the literary community that celebrates creativity, inclusivity, and the transformative power of literature. Don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss future episodes. Until next time, stay informed and stay engaged.